You see that logo everywhere, right? It's one of the most recognizable brands on the entire planet. But here's the thing. Red Bull isn't just an energy drink company. Not even close. They're a media house, a record label, and, most importantly, a global sports powerhouse that has totally rewritten the rules of the game. So, let's get into it and break down exactly how they built this incredible empire.
I mean, it's a wild story. It's part marketing genius, part ruthless business strategy, and yeah, a whole lot of controversy. So how on earth did they do it? How did a simple can of, let's be honest, caffeinated sugar water create a dynasty that dominates everything from the speed of Formula One to the hallowed grounds of the Champions League?
And like any great empire, this whole thing really starts with one person's vision. In this case, an Austrian marketing executive you've probably heard of, Dietrich Mateschitz.
The origin story is actually pretty cool. So Mateschitz is working for a German cosmetics company, traveling all over Thailand, and he's just wrecked with jet lag. Then he discovers this local tonic called Kraton Dang that truckers use to stay awake, and it works like magic. Right then and there, a light bulb goes off. He realized this wasn't just a drink, it was a solution. So in 1984, he partners up with the drink's creator, they spend a few years tweaking the formula for Western tastes, and boom, in 1987, Red Bull officially launches in Austria.
But this is the absolute masterstroke. Mateschitz knew right from the very beginning that he wasn't just selling a beverage in a can. His entire goal was to weld the Red Bull brand to the thrilling, high-adrenaline world of extreme sports. It was never about the taste. It was about the feeling, the identity. Red Bull didn't just want to sponsor sports. It wanted to become synonymous with them. And let me tell you, that vision paid off. Big time. At its peak, Mateschitz' personal net worth was estimated to be over $27 billion. That is a staggering fortune, built on a single, powerful idea. But all that money? That was just the fuel for an even bigger, crazier ambition. So how did that marketing dream actually build a legitimate, trophy-winning sporting dynasty? Well, the key was a business model that has since been copied all over the world. It's called multi-club ownership. Okay, so what exactly is this multi-club ownership, or MCO, thing? Well, to put it simply, it's when one company owns a bunch of different sports teams. This creates this incredible global network where they can share resources, scouting data, and, this is the most important part, players. It completely turns the tables. Individual clubs become like planets in a larger solar system. And this is so crucial. It changes the game by treating clubs not just as teams, but as strategic assets in a global portfolio. And Red Bull absolutely perfected this. Here's their 5-step playbook. First, they find a struggling club and buy it. Then, total rebrand. New name, new logo, the whole shebang screams Red Bull. Next, they inject a ton of cash into facilities and unleash their legendary global scouting network to find the next generation of superstars. Those players are then shuffled between their clubs to get the right experience at the right time. And finally, the end game. They either win a ton of trophies or they sell those players for a massive profit. It's a ridiculously efficient, self-sustaining machine for churning out talent and revenue. And this right here shows you just how powerful that blueprint is. Take the Brazilian club Bragantino. Before Red Bull came along in 2019, they were basically stuck in the second division, going nowhere. Just 2 years later, they were promoted as champions, finished 4th in the top league, and were playing in huge international competitions for the first time in over 20 years. The transformation was just immediate and absolutely dramatic. Let's get even more specific. Check out this one player, Claudinho. Red Bull Bragantino got him for just 500,000 euros. Under them, he blew up, became player of the season, a star for the club, even won an Olympic gold medal with Brazil. And then, they sold him for 15 million euros. That's a 30 times return on their investment. This is the blueprint in real time. Talented athletes who also happen to be incredibly valuable financial assets.
So what happens when you take that incredibly effective model and you apply it across multiple sports, on multiple continents? Well, you don't just get a business, you get an empire.
I mean, the sheer scale of it is just immense. They don't have just one Formula One team, they have 2. In football, they've got major clubs in Germany, Austria, the US, and Brazil. Oh, and they're also a powerhouse in professional ice hockey. Every single one of these teams is a critical piece in that global network we were talking about. But this rapid corporate-fueled expansion has definitely not come without a fight. The Red Bull model has kicked up a massive backlash and raised some really serious questions about the entire future of sport. And this is really the heart of the whole conflict, isn't it? On one hand, you've got this amazingly effective and innovative business strategy.
But on the other hand, critics are screaming that it represents a fundamental threat to the integrity and fairness of the game itself.
So the whole fight really hinges on a rule from UEFA, which runs European football. To protect fair play, they have this rule that says a single owner can't have decisive influence over two or more clubs playing in the same competition, like the Champions League. The whole point is to prevent an obvious conflict of interest. You can't own two teams that might play each other.
And then, in 2017, this rule was put to the ultimate test. Red Bull's two biggest European teams, RB Leipzig from Germany and Red Bull Salzburg from Austria, both qualified for the Champions League. Suddenly, UEFA had a massive problem on its hands. It had to decide, were these two clubs, both born from the Red Bull empire, too closely connected to compete against each other?
The whole investigation centered on that legal phrase, decisive influence. So what does it mean? Well, it really just boils down to one word: control. Control over voting rights, control over who's on the board, control over the day-to-day operations. Red Bull had to go through some serious corporate gymnastics, restructuring their ownership and management to prove to UEFA that the two clubs were actually independent. In the end, they were allowed to compete, but man, the whole ordeal really put a spotlight on the central challenge of their entire model.
But the criticism isn't just about regulations. It's cultural. For so many fans, football clubs are these community treasures with 100 years of history. So when Red Bull marches in and changes the name, the logo, the team colors, a lot of people don't see that as a rescue. They see it as wiping out the club's identity. This quote about Bragantino just captures that feeling perfectly, that the soul of the club was basically sacrificed for a corporate brand.
So, after all that, where does this leave us? What's the real legacy of the Red Bull empire? And what does it tell us about where professional sports are heading?
Well, whether you love them or you hate them, one thing is for sure. The Red Bull blueprint has fundamentally changed the game. It proved that a global multi-club network could be wildly successful. And now you see other major investors, like the owners of Manchester City, following the exact same playbook.
Which brings us to the final big question. Is this the future? A world where local clubs with deep histories just become interchangeable franchises in a massive global entertainment business? Or is it a dangerous model that erodes the traditions, the identity, and the fair play that make us care about sports in the first place? That's the debate Red Bull created, and honestly, the entire sports world is still searching